Hello, hope everyone is all right. I'm sat here fully fleeced up because it's so cold. Right, today I am going to talk about something I call hitting the reset button, okay, which is just a really useful strategy that I have used for quite a long time now, both on myself and with other people, because you know, life gets in the way, doesn't it? And we want to stick to our plan, but it doesn't always work like that. Okay. But before I sort of go into talking about exactly what that is, I just want to talk about just recap on what it is that really gets the results that you want. All right. Because I think that's just important just to think about, just to talk about first, because the key things that are going to make a difference to our weight, our health, sort of any other goals that we've got that are influenced by our weight, our health, our fitness, is all going to come from one, maintaining our exercise consistency. And then key is going to be dialing in nutrition. And the reason nutrition is so important is because it's giving our bodies what they need to function well. And that's really important. We often find that we want to eat sweets, sweet stuff, cakes, the usual stuff, the nice stuff. But that isn't really where we get optimum nutrition from. So that's what we're working towards because we're not just thinking about weight on the scales. We're talking about how we have better energy and how we function better as women, mentally, physically, and hormonally, because all those things are influenced by the quality of nutrition that we give ourselves on a regular basis. So what that therefore means is eating better food, better quality food more of the time, and then reducing the amount and the frequency of the treats we have, and also being prepared to make some real compromises and give things up. So, whilst I talk about the 80-20 rule, I think it's always a bit of a battle to stay in that zone, 20% of the calories or 10% of the calories coming from sort of treat foods or foods that we wouldn't describe as nutritious necessarily, or that we're not eating for nutrition, we're eating to give ourselves pleasure or to celebrate something. So we really do have to be mindful that we will always have a pull to eat more of those than we should do, and we have to recognize that. So it does take some effort for us to, manage how many of those things that we're eating on a regular basis. Okay. So, and what that then involves is breaking bad habits, such as really needing to eat something sweet after every meal. That's a bad habit. Letting go of emotional eating, that means learning about triggers, addressing the things that sort of, cause us to have cravings, and seeing how we can, what we can do to sort of break that pattern, break that dependency. And then also when we're talking about getting results, we want to learn to be more consistent across weekdays and weekends, to fall out of this, good all week, go mad all weekend. Do you know what I mean? And that doesn't mean you can't switch things up a little bit at weekends. And I think that's something I'll talk about a little bit more in a future one of these, because you can have some variation in weekends without feeling that you are good and like eating like a saint from Monday to Friday afternoon, and then from Friday night to Sunday night, anything goes. Again, that's a really common thing for us to fall into. So it all is all about creating new habits and new systems that make it easy for us to eat well every day. Okay. And what I just want to say before I go into this, this sort of hitting the reset button, is that we all enjoy nice tasting food. We all enjoy, the cakes, the biscuits, the sweets, the crisps, the takeaways, the restaurant meals. Okay. But what we don't enjoy feeling out of control with our eating and feeling like cravings have got a really powerful grip on us. It's very easy to tip into a balance of eating too many of those things and feeling like we're compelled to eat them. That's not a nice place to be. So this is about learning what's worth it to us and what isn't. Okay. Now, last week I talked about stress, and I talked about how easy it is for us to crack under pressure, and for motivation to dip, to get that sense that just everything feels too hard all of a sudden. And what happens in that situation is our brain is telling us that what we're doing, this diet that we're on, this exercise, it's just unrealistic, it's too hard, it's too stressful, we don't need that stress, we need a break, we need to loosen up. That really happens. And things can then start to slip. We sort of rebel against the routine. there might be a few snacks, eating in between meals, eating while we're cooking, having a few more treats creeping in. And then that starts to get out of control a little bit or go a bit too far. And then we see the scale starting to move in the wrong direction. Okay. Now, this happens to all of us. This happens to me. This still happens to me. So that's why I did that session on stress, because that was absolutely based on my very recent experience. And whilst I, don't want it to happen again, I know it will. That's the reality of it. And when you have a bad week or a bad few days, whatever it is, the first reaction that you have is to have a word with yourself and tell yourself to work harder. Just put more effort in this week. I'm gonna make this week a good week. You have this little conversation with yourself. But a few years ago, when I was going through a similar period, I realized that having a word with myself and that resolving to try harder and promising myself, became broken promises very quickly. It wasn't cutting it. So, each week I'd start Monday, I'd be full of the best intentions when I got up, but very quickly, wouldn't take long, maybe mid-morning before I was starting to struggle. And then by the end of the day, I probably gone back to how I was, and then each day would feel harder. I wouldn't be on top of anything. I'd feel like I was making an effort, but I'd feel like I was failing. And then by the weekend, I would feel so fed up by all the effort I'd made, but I'd not got anywhere, that I would fully give up and go off the diet. And then by the following Monday, I'd be heavier than that previous Monday. And that's the cycle that I think we'll all recognize as very common. Okay. But what changed for me was that eventually I realized that this intention to try harder, this promise to myself to try harder, made no difference at all. Okay. So what I did, I got out my journal. Am I boring yet? I think I own being boring. I got out my journal and I did this exercise because I just was starting to think, well, what's going on? Why is this so hard? Why am I trying harder each week? Why am I promising to try harder each week, but it's not happening? So what I did an exercise where I compared what was happening when I was having a good week with what was going on during a bad week. And I was in a bad week mode, okay, that I was trying to find a way out of. And on a good week, I knew that I felt organized and in control. I knew that I had my meals planned in. I knew that I got my exercise in. I knew that I was in a good routine. My sleep was good. My mood was good. So lots of ticks. So that didn't really tell me much. And then I thought, well, what's a bad week? A bad week was I couldn't make a decision what to eat. I felt hungry all the time. I had cravings. I had this feeling of agitation. I couldn't settle. And that gave me some information, but not necessarily new information. So what I did was I looked at what was going on outside of how I felt about eating and how hard I was finding it. That's where I found some really useful information. I'd had a couple of bad nights sleep on the run. The weather was really bad at the time and I didn't want to go out. So I hadn't been getting any steps. I hadn't been getting any fresh air. I've just been in the house all day. Excuse me. I had a new carpet and I get allergies anyway. It's just sent them off the scale this week. It must be all the dust in the house. So the weather was bad and work was particularly stressful. So there was bad sleep. I wasn't getting out. Work was stressful. It was all building up. It was getting on top of me. I didn't feel organized. I felt on the back foot with everything. That's overwhelm, isn't it? So I could see that there was this just chaos. So then I could see quite differently, see why eating was such a struggle with this backdrop of chaos. So then I thought, okay, so how do I recreate a good week? And the answer I came up with on the back of that journaling was plan all my meals for the next day and make those good meals. I didn't want them to be diet meals where I was trying to make up for what I'd eaten the day before that was too much and have this little tiny breakfast and this little tiny salad lunch that was going to make me hungry. I decided to eat good meals. Okay. So good, filling, nutritious, high protein meals, the type I always talk about. Okay. And I also decided a good day would be knowing what time I was going to eat those meals. Okay. So I could get to each meal without snacking in between because I knew once I started snacking, then that was like a bit of a tsunami. I just would carry on. Okay. I also realized that make the meals in advance because I didn't quite feel at that point that I could trust myself to follow through with my plans if I didn't have them ready. Okay. And I could potentially sort of not eat what not follow through with what I'd planned. And then go for a walk first thing. Because what I'd realized when I was looking at my good days was that I got some exercise in, I got some movement in. So I had a plan. And that evening, that's what I did. I planned my meals for the next day. I made them. I put times on them. Okay. And I set my alarm clock a little bit earlier so that I had time to get up, go for a walk. I can't remember what the weather was like, but I wasn't going to let that stop me because I knew that was a key part of my little formula for getting a good day, getting into a good, starting with one good day that I wanted to then be a trigger to create a good week. Okay. So I went for that walk before I did anything for anyone else, before anyone could get hold of me, before anyone could derail my day. And as soon as I came back from that walk, that one thing made me feel great. Now, we all know that exercise gives you a boost, it gives you mood enhancing, boosts your mood. And so I got the benefit of that, but also psychologically, I had done one thing from my plan. And that one thing suddenly made me feel like I was back in control. I felt really pleased with myself. So that gave my sort of motivation and mood and my sense of being able to do this a boost straight away. Okay. Then I knew that my breakfast was 7:30. And it was ready. So I ate my breakfast at the time that I had said I would eat it the day before when I did my plan. So now that was two things. So I felt great. I've had my walk, I've had my breakfast. This is great. This is working. I'm changing my mindset already, and it's not even 8 o'clock yet. When it came round to lunchtime, I was starting to feel hungry. Had about an hour or 45 minutes to go. Normally, well, if I'd been hungry the day before or the week before, I'd have been straight in the kitchen and the nuts would have been out. But I knew that I'd said I wouldn't eat my lunch till 1. So I hung on and I just got some work to do, got myself a cup of tea, carried on. Sure enough, 1 o'clock comes. I've made this lovely lunch for myself. I eat it. 3 things. I've done the three things that I've said I'd do today. So I was delighted with myself. Each one was a little win. Each one was a victory. Each one was boosting my motivation. It was making me feel in control. I was on a roll. 4 or 5 hours later, I did the same for dinner. I knew what I was having for my dinner. I made it. I ate it. 4 things. Okay. So all of a sudden on that day, I had done 4 things out of 4 things that I had promised myself that I would do the day before that would set me up to have a good week and a good day. And it worked. So I just suddenly felt this huge rush, this huge sense of achievement, of accomplishment, of being in control, of knowing what to do. So psychologically, I was on it. I'd made a huge change to my mindset and I'd had like a real breakthrough. So it all added up for me to have this great day and this sense that I'd broken the cycle. So I was in a great mood. What did I do? I planned in the next day. Okay. And I carried on. Now, after that, took a while actually. I sort of kept a journal, a record of that. I used it again. And eventually, once I got into doing personal training and coaching, I wrote it in my book as well. I called it hitting the reset button because that's what it did. It was a little formula that enabled me to hit the reset button of all things that I could reasonably do and manage and control in my day. And I've used it so many times for myself and so many times with clients since. It's worked for them. It's worked for me. It'll work for you. Okay. Now, all elements of that little plan, I think, are important, but I think there is particular power in starting with some sort of exercise or physical movement, just because moving makes you feel good. It releases feel good endorphins. And I think that's really important. So that is a really strong recommendation to try and find some time that will work for you in the day, in that morning, I should say, where you move. And it doesn't have to be a walk. Things that have worked for other clients have included swimming or going to yoga or even just doing a short session of like stretching or mobility or something in their bedroom when they've got up. Move around for a bit before you do anything else. And that's the key. It's doing something for you before you do something for anybody else. And because of that, I do think that journaling and meditation can be effective if doing some movement, doing some exercise isn't an option or doesn't appeal to you in the same way. But if journaling and meditation do and or journaling or meditation do feel more, resonate with you more, then yeah, I think that's fine as well, because that is effective. It's quiet time to get your mind straight, to get some intentions set for the day. That can give you a sense of control, but also a sense of doing something for yourself, indulging in just a little bit of a moment to yourself, a bit of peace before you then get pulled into other people's lives, because that's what often happens with us. We just get overtaken by what other people want. We start doing things for other people the minute we open our eyes, and we lose ourselves. Okay. So I think that little moment, first and foremost, of doing something for yourself is really important, because that's how you hit the reset button. That's how you send a really strong message to yourself that you are your own priority, that you are important, that you have some control over your day and the choices that you make around exercise and the food that you eat. And that is really, really powerful. And I did this at a time where I was incredibly stressed. I was working for myself in a business that really wasn't going very well. So I didn't have a boss or hassle from other people, but I had genuine and serious fears financially about surviving and being able to pay my bills, which is crushing. That's awful. But I was able in that situation to walk outside for 15 minutes, to just to make a decision about what time I ate my meals, to make a decision what I ate. And that was all it took to help me get back onto a good run. And it gave me a technique, more importantly, that I could use over and over and over again when things started to get tough and drifted off. Because at the end of the day, that's what makes the difference between getting results and finding a plan that works for you, that you can follow forever. Because what doesn't work is when we let stress stop us and we give up. Okay. The people who get results are the people who have setbacks, but get on the horse and get back on, dust themselves down, don't give themselves a hard time, learn from what they've done, learn from the experience, and find a way to pick up and start again. That's the thing that makes all the difference. Okay. So that's why this hitting the reset button is a valuable tool to have for life. So my advice for you now is to maybe take some time to yourself just to create that same small plan that I did, and it's really simple. It can be 5 lines, go for a meal, go for a walk. That's a good one. Go for a walk, do some journaling, eat this for your breakfast at this time, eat that for your lunch at this time, eat that for your dinner at this time. 4 things is all it needs to be. Maybe just get to bed a bit earlier. That's another good one that works, because if I feel like I'm rested and I've had some decent sleep, as much as I can control it, then that helps the next day feel a little bit easier as well. And once you've got that little list, put it somewhere that's easy to find, because you need to remember that's there when you're in that awful mindset in the future of real struggle, yeah, and real doubt over whether you can carry on with this. It can be quite hard for you to flip out of that and think rationally. But if you've got that saved on your phone or on a pin board or in a journal or a diary that you use regularly, you can access that when you're really struggling, and you can put that plan in place. Okay, so I hope that's been useful. Not necessarily a long session today, but I like that because I know your time's precious, but hopefully it's been really valuable. So next time you find yourself struggling, try that out and let me know how it works. All right, see you soon. Bye.